Hello, I'm Dr. Ellen, and I am so excited to be here with Pearl today. I am a holistic health coach, author, and speaker, and I can't wait to have this soulful conversation with you today.
Sunshine, good to see you again. Had to walk out to let you back in. Stuck in a storm of a relationship. Lost my fire. Oh, and I forgot about me for way too long. But it's rolled on. Now there ain't no shade around here.
Everybody, it's Pearl Chiarenza. I'm so excited to be back with another episode of Soulful Self-Care Conversations. And we always have so much fun with our guests. And today's not going to be any different because today I have Dr. Ellen Mosti. She is a dynamic speaker, transformational coach, and founder of Lightness One All Holistic Health Healing Center. And she has a deep wisdom and decades of experience. Ellen empowers women to heal from trauma, release limiting patterns, and rediscover their inner radiance. I love that. She also it has her unique blend of expertise in pharmacy, theology, energy healing, and coaching, bridges her science with spirituality to guide us women on our journey to wholeness. Having navigated her own path through turbulent times and demanding careers, Dr. Ellen understands the deep desire for transformation. She offers the practical tools and a nurturing space at Lightness One All, where women can heal, thrive, and embrace their true potential. So we are ready today to help you start to reclaim your joy and live a life filled with purpose. So let's embark on our amazing conversation today. Welcome to the show, Dr. Ellen.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you here. I love what you call lightness for all. I'm all about like that inner pearl and inner Shiro. And we're going to talk about that today on the show. And so I want to get right into our first episode with you and I doing this together. But one of the things that I do that's unique, I don't have questions. So people always say, what questions are you going to ask me? And for those that are new to the show, if you're listening on your computer, on your phone, wherever you're listening, or you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you leave a comment on whatever platform you're watching or listening on. We love the comments. We love to read it. Our guests love to go back and see what you have to say about the episode. So like and subscribe and all the things below. I'm waving my hands all around for you. But everybody says, Pearl, do you have questions I need to prepare for? I'm like, no, that's the purpose of the show. Soulful self-care conversations. We want it to be like within your soul. We don't want you to prepare answers, but there's always one question. So if you watch the show, everybody will see the first question I'm about to ask Dr. Ellen. And that is, Dr. Ellen, I would like to talk to the little Dr. Ellen, the little girl way back in the day, where she was maybe playing with Barbie dolls or outside being a tomboy, whatever it was she was doing. But she had these thoughts about what she wanted to be when she grew up to be this adult that we are today. And I would love to know, like, what did little Dr. Ellen want to be when she grew up? And how does it compare to what you're doing today? So I'm going to lead by example and I'm going to share my little Pearl.
Okay.
So little Pearl wanted to be a teacher when she grew up. She thought she was going to go be an elementary school teacher. She thought she's going to empower all these young minds in the world to become these beautiful human beings, right? And so went through high school. I did a program in my school where I got to go and help an elementary school teacher and work with the kids in the school. Actually, she even let me do some of the programs with her. It was a lot of fun in my senior year of high school. However, when I graduated, my parents didn't have the knowledge of how do I get to college? What are the things to do? How do I pay for college? So I didn't have the opportunity. So I went to the College of School of Hard Knocks and I moved out to California and met my husband. And if you follow my story, you'll know that the things I've gone through. But I also was a health coach, so who moved into life coaching. And I always tell my clients, I think it's really cute and funny because I coach women. And I always say to them, you were probably that person I would have taught in elementary school, but God knew I needed to talk to you when you were an adult. So that's my story today. And that's how little Pearl is teaching today, but just in a different way than she thought. So what about you, Dr. Ellen? What was little Dr. Ellen doing?
Well, I read Florence Nightingale when I was young and thought I wanted to be a nurse until one of my neighbors' older sister was a nurse, and I found out what nursing did and that they did dealt with needles and blood. And I knew that I couldn't handle that. Then I wanted to be a hairdresser. Um, and I think it's because I want to help women become beautiful. And like you, I didn't become a hairdresser. And yet I still met my goal of helping women become beautiful and to shine their light into the world because we're all unique and we're all beautiful. And we just need sometimes we just need someone to see it in us so that we can shine that out into the world. The other thing I loved was my chemistry set. So, as you mentioned, I was a pharmacist for 25 years and I thought I wanted to be a lab tech. And I told my mother that based on my love of just spending hours in front of my chemistry set. And she said, "Why don't you look at pharmacy?" So, my family was well connected in the community. They knew several pharmacists. So, I went and talked to several pharmacists. And in seventh grade, I decided to be a pharmacist, which was good for me because now I realize I had probably some ADHD brain going on. So having that goal, having that focus allowed me to get through junior high and high school with like, these are the courses I need to take. This is what I need to continue me on my path. And it led me through pharmacy school, the Doctor of Pharmacy program at Duquesne University, and into a career. But something else from my childhood that was near and dear and never really thought of it as a career was my love of crafting and being creative and creating beauty. So I made stamps out of sponges. I would cut sponges apart into designs and then use inks or paints to stamp with those. And later in life, I became a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. They're a rubber stamp company out of Utah. So, and I'm still with them. It's been 21 years. And it's just so much fun because I say I can't draw, although now I am starting to embrace my inner artist. So it's just amazing where life takes us and the things, like you said, that little Ellen loved to do and wanted to do and where that took us. And then in 2006, I was working for Merck Pharmaceuticals as a pharmacist and a clinical liaison, and they laid me off. So at the time, I was already in a graduate program, Polish University Graduate Seminary, getting a doctorate in spirituality and health. Because at that point, I realized that a lot of medications are band-aids. And although they treat symptoms, and some of them work very, very quickly, and as you know, as being a life coach and a holistic healer, some of the processes that we do can be rapid, and sometimes they take time. And it takes courage and time to look at the areas of our life that aren't working and how to get them working. Um, so I really went on a journey to find out like what's underneath, what's causing those illnesses that pills are just treating the symptoms up and not doing anything for the underlying cause. So all of that is now finally coming together years later, almost 20 years later. And I am now shining my light out into the world. And that is my word for 2025 is
I
shine.
I love that. I love your word for 25 too, shine. I think it's so cool when we pick words and like, it like for me it's like I have mine, it's journey. Like this year is about my journey, like reclaiming my journey. For those that are new to the show and don't know, this is 3 years this month on the 25th that of July that we lost our oldest son in a tragic car accident. And so it totally changed, our lives. And of course, in totally different ways that you can expect. And so we were a family of four, come down to a family of three, and then navigating all that and all the intricate things that happen with it. But this year I feel like it's my journey, like reclaiming my journey this year, like where I was just starting like that next like catapult, and then life pulls you back and says, wait a minute, and throws you this curve, and what are you going to do with it? And so that's that's like what this is all about. This is another reason why our show went from conversations with Pearl to soulful self-care conversations, because it's really about taking care of self and knowing that we have this, like you said, we have this light inside that we have to shine it. We have to keep working on shining it. And that's why I'm glad we're having you on today and having these conversations. And I want to step back because what you said, just the band-aid with meds that my doctor, he loves me. Sometimes I think he doesn't like me, but he's Dr. Narani is so amazing. And so I see so my husband and I go to the same practice. I see the husband, he sees the wife, and I go in, I'm like, okay, here's all the things I want you to do. These are all the things I want you to test for me. And he just looks like, okay. And he'll go, well, can we add this? I'm like, okay, you can add that, where the wife is like, okay, she doesn't believe in pharmaceutical. She doesn't believe in vitamins. She believes in like the pharmaceutical stuff. And so like it's so funny how we have these different interests with our doctors. But I happened to go to her one time because I wasn't feeling good and he wasn't in, and she looked at something on my paperwork at something to do with I think my blood pressure. I can't remember what it was that put me on. She's like, "Well, I see that you've been like this level for this long," and I just look at it. She goes, "I know you're going to talk with my husband, right?" I go, "Yeah, I'm going to talk with your husband." And it was so funny because then when I went to go see him, I think it was like another 6 weeks or something before I had to see him again. He's like, you were a conversation at my dinner table a few weeks ago. Oh, I remember that. Was that good or bad? He goes, well, I have to tell you, my wife is right. I go, wait, are you telling me your wife is right because you know your wives are always right? And he just started laughing at me. So I love that you said that like meds are equals band-aids because we have to take so if you're listening to us, you have to take it. There's nothing wrong. I'm not knocking my doctors. Trust me, I love my doctors, but they only get so much time with us. So, like they're legally, insurance wise, everything, they only get like that 15, 20 minutes with us. I want to go in, I want to be prepared and I want to have all my information and all of that stuff. I want to have my questions and they've been great, especially for these past couple of years with losing Matthew. Like he's always checking, do you need help with anything? I'm like, no, I'm not doing any meds. If I can make it through and do the tools that I know, meditation, prayer, all those things that help me get through it, that's good. But if I ever felt like I needed anything, I would tell him, I need help. But I love that you talked about meds equal band-aid sometimes because there's really like I want to talk about that with you because there's really, I went and got my naturopathic certification. I take a vitamin line that I love to death. It's a isotonics. It's called isotonics. It's basically it's a powder form. You put water in and you drink it. So it's in my bloodstream in 10 minutes. And I wouldn't buy into it when I first was introduced to it. I'm like, yeah, no, no, no. I don't want, I don't believe in like, there are don't get me wrong, there are companies out there that are great. So I was already on what I thought was pharmaceutical grade vitamins, but they were pill form. And so I remember I got approached with this line. I was like going, I'll try it. And after like 2 days, I was like, wow, this is pretty good, but it can't be the vitamins. I didn't believe it was the vitamins. So I said, I'm not taking day 3. And by the end of day 3, I was like, why am I so tired? And I realized I didn't take that day 3 vitamin. I took it. I was like, oh my gosh. So my world opened up when it came to naturopathic stuff and really picking and knowing what's best for our body. So I would like you to share with us, like, talk about that, share with us where, a little bit about what you do and then that holistic health approach, because I think it's important too that we understand that we have those choices.
We do. And I didn't know about your son. So my support and for you and your family, I'm sure that that's been quite a journey the last 3 years. Um, and, loss and grief can really impact us. And I'm glad that you have a lot of tools to help you move through that. Because the other thing that I've found out, and it leads into your question, is when, like, I know for myself, emotions were scary when I was little, Ellen. My parents there was a lot of chaos in the home. There was a lot of trauma, a lot of yelling and fighting. And so to me, especially anger didn't feel safe. And then my parents were already at like a 10 or 100, like it seemed like all the time or often. And so like I didn't want to add to that energy in the house. So I became the peacekeeper and the people pleaser and the one that tried her hardest to bring down the energy to a more calm state in the home. Um, and in doing that, I suppress my own emotions. And so what I've come to learn is we do that because we don't feel safe to feel our emotions or express our emotions. And when we do that, that's what it stagnates energy in our body. So there's several books out there. Bessel van der Kolk's The Body Keeps Score, Candace Pert's work, Molecules of Emotion, how this all gets stored in our bodies. So that's one of my holistic tips, is to get that energy to move, to look at those thoughts, beliefs, things that we absorbed as a child or decisions we made as a child with the skills and the mindset that we had as a child, which are unfortunately can be limited. I mean, they do protect us and they're limited. So it's a matter of looking at those and then choosing more powerful beliefs, letting go of those So I've heard it said, you got to feel it to heal it. If you can share it, you can bear it. Um, so, it's having that safe container to experience your emotions. And sometimes you can do that on your own. Sometimes you can do that through prayer and meditation in your own home. And sometimes, at least in my own journey, I've found it extremely helpful to have a coach, to have a therapist, to someone that can actually hold that container, that safe space for me when I couldn't hold it for myself, and be able to delve in and feel and clear all of that.
I,
So
I,
that's
I, yeah, I
that's
love that
one aspect of it.
I love that you touched on that because I didn't realize this, but we got a little bit in common. Unfortunately, I too was in a household where, you basically you walked on eggshells. If you came home and they were like at each other's foot, it's like you just walked on eggshell, and then all of a sudden you come home and everybody's fine. I'm like going, what happened? How did they resolve it? Like that's how I learned to communicate. When I met my husband, if I was upset with him, I would just all I knew was to shut down and don't say anything, right? And so I was 19, almost 20 when I met Chuck, and so we were living together before we got married. Yes, we were bad people, but it's okay. It was 40 years later, we're still doing good. But I remember him, he would ask me like, you got to tell me what's wrong. You got to tell me. I was still shut down. So he taught me how to communicate because he started having my conversation for me. So he would have a self-talk to himself as if it was me. And I was like, wait a minute, that's not what I would have said to you. So then now he'll tell you if he was sitting here with us, he's like, yeah,
Wow.
he'd be like, now I can't get her to shut up. But hence why I do this podcast. But
But
so
how wonderful that he recognized
yep,
that and could like role play a
right,
conversation, and then you could jump in and say yes or no, like, no,
yeah,
that's not what I'm thinking, or that's not how I'm feeling, and
right.
then get you to start
Yeah, it was 100%. Like
speaking.
it changed my life and I'm sure it changed our relationship drastically. And so like what you're talking about, the people pleaser, I too, like third grade, you have to stay home from school because your mom had surgery. So you got to take care of her, and like keeping the peace. I was the oldest child. Like I don't want my brother and sister to have all this chaos, and all that stuff. And so it led into these things like what you're talking about today. But I like what you said. I wrote it down. Feel it to heal it. I feel like really like especially these last 3 years, and thank you for recognizing my son. These last 3 years, it's like that's what I've been doing. Like I have to feel it to heal it. I if those that are watching or listening, if it's your first time, you're gonna hear this for the first time. If not, you're gonna hear this again. But I really like 2 days before he passed, like it took us 10 years to have a family, Dr. Ellen. And so when we did, my people pleasing hat went on. Like, I'm going to wear my titles. I'm going to show up for, I've had my 10 years of doing what I need to do and have fun. Now I'm a mom and I got to do all these roles. But really, I didn't, because I had no example and not my mom's fault. She did the best she could do and my dad. But it's
Right.
like I had this, these
But
are the
you
people
drew a
that I took.
line in the sand and
Yeah.
said, this
Yeah.
isn't how you're going to raise your children.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So, but looking back, I mean, it took me until my oldest was a rising senior in high school to realize who the heck am I? Like, I didn't even know who what my name was for, nothing. And so I went on this journey, and like my boys started to see that. I wanted to be the example, like, your wives don't have to be the title, they don't have to do everything. We don't have to, as women, carry everything on our shoulders. And so it, like you said, it affects our, the feel it to heal it. Like these past 3 years, I've allowed myself to feel it going back to and doing this work, like overcoming people pleasing before my son even passed. I was feeling it to heal it too, because the childhood trauma, I had to recognize that this is what it caused. And then since then, I've also divorced my parents because of behaviors that they continued on, even as an adulthood, even as I healed myself. They went through a divorce after 43 years of marriage. And
Wow.
me, they try to put me and my 40s in between the two of them like I was a 7-year old. And their behaviors led to actions and then other things. I'm not going to get into all that right now, but other behaviors
Mm.
that were a risk to my health, a risk to my family. I decided, you know what? And I talked with my priest, Father Bill, if he's listening, I love him to death. He's like, Pearl, you don't pick your parents. Like God picks your parents and you will love them, but you have boundaries. And he asks me, like, what's your favorite football game? I'm like, I love what sport. I'm like, I love football. He goes, okay, how many men are on the field? If they can't be one of those men on the field for a football game, let them sit in the bench. And if they can never ever play by the rules of your life of the game, they can sit on a bench permanently. There's nothing, you're always going to love them. And I've had people, this is no kidding, Dr. Ella. I've had people say, but they're your parents. And I'll look at them and going, okay, I hear where you're coming from. Yes, they gave birth to me and all that stuff. And I tell them what Father Bill showed. I said, but let me ask you this. If my spouse was treating me this way, would you say to me, but it's your spouse? No, you tell me get out of the narcissistic gaslighting situation that I was in. So I chose to do that with my parents. I will always love them. I have tried over and over to, show up for them as that daughter that I am. But again, the boundaries keep breaking. So it's like I can't. And so going back to shining the light inside of us as we started the show with, I knew I had to keep my light shining even through that and even through what's happening with the loss of our son. I had to figure out how to turn my light back on, how to live fully because, if you are listening to us for the first time, if not, you've heard me say before, I could sit in my bed all day long and I could grieve my life away, but life is going to pass me by. And there's more that I know I'm supposed to be doing, including things like this that I know that my son would not want me to stop doing because he saw me become who I was. And I know that God doesn't want me to stop doing because he's put that, like we put that light in me. He's like, go do this with your life. But when we don't do that, that's when things stop. And that's when we lose sight of who we want to be. And I love that you're everything like your background, like the light of the one creator for all. I love that. So I love you to talk more about that. Like when you are when you work with your clients and they're struggling with some of this, like how do you walk them through seeing that there is that light within them?
Um, I'd love to address that question, but I'd love to address some of what you just
Go
shared
for it. Let's go for it. Yeah.
because, um, I do believe that we choose our parents, and I was fortunate enough to have two sets of parents. So I had the parents, the biological parents, they created me in this physical form, they're egg and sperm, and then I had adopted parents that I was raised with. And I did reunite with my birth mother. She has since passed, but we had a 20-year relationship. So, and I think that our families, whether we choose them or whether we're gifted them, however you want to look at that, I think they're part of our lesson. I think we are brought here to learn and grow and experience life and to make choices. And I do believe that our higher self and the creator gives us free will. So we can have those desires in our hearts. We can have the desire to start a podcast, and we can say, and we can say yes or no to that without blame, shame. There's no good or bad in the realm of the
Yeah.
unity, the oneness. There is,
100%.
it's just a choice. And
I
so
want to
that
I
gives
want
you,
to I want to tell you
that gives us
something.
a
So
lot of
for
freedom.
everybody that's listening, this is really our first time meeting. I normally I interview pre-interview, but because Dr. Ellen came to me from a really good friend, I'm like, oh, I love what she does. Let's just get her on. So Dr. Ellen, I don't know if you know, but our oldest son that passed away, he was adopted.
I didn't know that.
Yes, so he was a month old when we adopted him. So it's so funny that what a coincidence. Like your
What a
journey,
coincidence.
like that whole like this is all I believe this is divine intervention.
It
But
is
that
divine
but
intervention.
yeah, but it's so amazing that like what you talk about, like yeah, you were gifted these parents and and that's one of the things like with our oldest son, he struggled with his mental health because he was also mixed race. So he was the only mixed race child in our family that was completely white, and his biological family is completely white because his mom had hooked back up, had met up with an old boyfriend from high school. And so that was one of his biggest struggles in the middle. And that was one of the struggles that affected his mental fitness. And also at the end, led to behaviors like alcoholism and stuff like that. So that was a struggle for him. So because he wanted that sense of belonging. And so we could talk all about adoption all day long, but you're right.
Oh, wow.
What you said is so powerful. Like that gift. And I'm glad you were able to connect with and have that beautiful relationship because that's something we want it for Matthew. We actually have a book coming. It's getting released out. It's called Beyond Skin Deep Stories of Intercultural Adoptions. And so Mary, who introduced us, she's doing the editing right now in that book. So it's July right now. It's going to get released at the end of this month of July. But it's all about those stories of like adoptions of different cultures and how, paying it forward in lessons. So yeah, I'm glad you talked about that. It's like it's such a coincidence. But let's so you went through all of that and now like let's talk about how you took your story and now what you're doing because you're a pharmacist and all that. Lead us through like what's led that to what you, because like we talk about all the time, I talk about all the time too, is we all have a book in us. And I know we're going to talk about your book in a minute, but we all
Yeah.
have a book within us. And like I always tell my clients and my friends, I'm like, just write your book. I don't care if you release it, but you've got a book. Like leave something behind for your legacy. Write down your story, or if it's a story you don't want anybody to read, write it and just tell your close friend, hey, when because I've got a friend, she knows when I die, this is the drawer you need to go get everything out of. Right? So she knows that. So, but
Wow.
so lead us through that. Bring us to what's led to today, and also lead us into your book when you're ready.
Well, there's a few things. So I think part of my childhood, and I didn't realize this until a lot later, I read everything I could get on my hands on in my school library and the local library on addiction in grade school. It's not a topic that most kids read in grade school. Um, and I realized then it was to help like fix my family. So, there was a lot of my life where I was the rescuer, the fixer, the healer, the change, like really wanted to make a change in the world. And I've kind of come full circle on that and allowing people to be who they are. So like your parents, I love that analogy of your priest gave you of you're playing a sport and is this person playing the same sport? Are they trying to play soccer on a football field? Are they not following the rules? Are they not playing, they don't have good sportsmanship? You know, if you were on a team, you would be sidelined for that. And if it was bad enough, you'd be kicked off the team. So I get that, like, we're given this team. And I think that is one of the biggest decisions. And I think this also gets to answering your question of what do I do when my clients are stuck or feel like they can't shine their light. It's finding that courage within. It's building up your own energetic body so that you can stand up and set boundaries. I love Dr. Terry Cole's work. She wrote a book called The Boundary Boss. She's written a second book. So if anybody needs help with boundaries, I'm also going to take that on and start creating some videos for my Facebook and Instagram feeds on boundaries, because I think it is such a huge issue. And I think especially as women, I think we're taught to get along. We're taught that we're the glue to hold the family together. Sounds like you were a rescuer as well. And those are roles that can be really, really challenging to step out of. It took me decades. And if I can help women younger to step out of those and not wait until I was 38 when I started my own spiritual and personal growth journey. And honestly, it took me to getting to 60 to really drop the fear. And I just recently got divorced. And my ex over the last several years is like, the older you get, the more daredevil, risky things you want to try and do with your life. I said, yes, because I spent the first 60 years of my life in morbid fear that like, if I did something wrong, if I wasn't perfect, all of that, the what if, that something catastrophic was going to happen to me. And when I finally started learning to love myself, to give myself what I needed, that care, that love, that compassion, to take care of myself, to put my own needs first. And that's really what I'm on a mission for, is to flip the story. So many women have their own health care, their own self-care at the bottom of the to-do list. And when do we ever get to the bottom of our to-do list? I don't know about you, but mine's like a mile long. I'm never going to get to the bottom of it. So if I'm down there, I'm never going to get around to taking care of me. So I did write a book, and I'm going to step aside a second so I can open it or pick it up. It is From Simply Surviving to Radically Thriving: 5 Steps to Unleash Unstoppable You. And that is my own artwork on the cover, on the front and the back. I also published with Mary Good and Divine Destiny Publishers. It was a fabulous process. She has a program to write a book in 90 days. It took me 155. And left Ohio, moved to Florida, found a place to live, all while I was writing my book and was working through my divorce process at the same time. So a little bit of an overachiever. And again, that ADHD brain like has to have five things going at once. So here we are.
We have
And
way too much. We have way too much in common. Like I got the ADHD brain too. It's like I got all this stuff happening at one time, plus a retreat. I love the cover.
yeah, thank you. And
Yeah,
then I know with my
there you go.
background on.
Stay right
So
there.
this is one of the graphics that you can download for free. And it is the 5 steps in graphic form. And I just think it's really fun and playful. And that's the other thing that I'm finally embracing as well. As I let go of the fear, life has just become so much more joyful. I have so much more freedom and play in my life. So that little Ellen that loved to play and be creative that got buried under all the shoulds and all of the have tos. And then as the perfectionism and the fears just kind of, they just snowball. And what I'm finding is if you unleash or release those fears and all of the shoulds and coulds and woulds, um, yeah, the joy and all of that snowballs. So it truly is the whatever you focus on, you get more of. So the more I focus on my future, what I want to create in my life, my mission to help other women step out of all of this patriarchal and unfortunately in some cases religion as well. It
Hmm.
sounds like your priest is and your religion has really been supportive to you, and if it is, I think that's fabulous.
Yeah.
And if you're struggling and aren't feeling supported where you are with your religious practices, I do suggest that you find what does work for you,
Yeah, I
and
100% agree
where
with
you can
you.
connect
Yeah.
your soul to source.
Yeah, I think it's important. Like you touched about like your to-do list. Like if you're on the bottom of your to-do list, it's not going to happen. And it's one of the things that like when I coach with my clients, the first thing we start working on is, I find out like why did you come to me? Like what about me wants you to work with me? And most 9 times out of 10 they're like I follow you. You're real. You're honest. You share exactly what's going on. You don't sugarcoat it. I'm like, well, because life is life, and I'm not perfect, but the one thing we start with is like we talk about their joy list because oftentimes, like you said, women, we put everything on our shoulders first. So I have a funny story about that. So when I was just doing health and wellness, I wanted to have these really cool t-shirts done. And the theme was, it was a program where you concentrate on losing fat. So we had this big plastic fat blob, look like a bunch of fat together, right? And so I was like, I want to make this really cool shirt with it, right? So I go to the local graphic guy here that does shirts and graphics at the same time. I'm like, and this is back when emojis started to come out. So it's about 11 years ago now. And so so he's like, okay, so we put it all together and we take this fat blob together and on the front of it we put these two arms coming out the side. We got this smiley face. So it was going to be the graduation shirt. It's going to give my clients when they graduated from the program and how excited they were. So it advertised me and everything, right? So I go to pick up my son at football practice and I have it on my phone. I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this design for a shirt? And he sat there in the passenger seat. He got really quiet. And it's like, Mom, don't take this the wrong way. But why would you want a picture of a man's part on your shirt? And I looked and I was like, because it was the pancreas is what was on the shirt, right? And I was like going, oh. And I looked and my response was exactly this. No wonder why us women have to deal with so much stuff. Not only do we have to carry a pancreas, we got to carry a man's part in our body too. And he just started laughing at me. He's like, Mom, I'm like, that's what came to my mind. I was like, so that shirt went nowheres. But I was like, and that was like an aha to say we carry too much stuff on our shoulders and we have to show up for
Yeah.
ourselves. And so the joyless is where I come in with my clients. I'm like, you're the first thing we're working on is I want 10 things that bring you joy. Like, oh, no problem. I could do it. I'm like, no, 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 no. It's going to take you at least 6 weeks to give me all 10 because we're going to break down one to two each week about like, okay, so getting up in the morning brings you joy. But what about getting up a boy brings you joy? And I'm going to keep asking, what about that until you get to the real reason that why getting up in the morning brings you joy is because it allows you to have another day to put yourself first and forgive yourself if you didn't do well yesterday, right? And so we do that list. And then when I tell them, I'm like, as we do the joy list, I then give them a challenge. You're going to pick 2 things and you're going to work on that for the next 2 weeks, something that brings your joy list. And at the end of the day, what I hone into them is like the cliche about pouring in your cup first is very true, but you got to overflow it. Number one, and number two, I tell them, I'm like, I get really deep really fast. I'm like, let me just ask you this: if tomorrow doesn't come, and at your eulogy, all your people, all your friends and family can say, and I want everybody who's watching and listen to this carefully. If tomorrow doesn't come, and everybody that's in that church or that eulogy, whatever they're sitting at, remembering you, and all they're allowed to say when they stand up at the pew or at the microphone about what they saw you do for yourself, not the titles you wear, not what you did for them, but what they saw you do for you. If 10 people can't say 10 different things, then you need a coach or you need a therapist or you need to figure out how to stop putting everybody else first. Because I will tell you, 10 people will tell you, I sit on my front porch swing and I'll just sit out there for a couple hours, take a nap or journal. They'll tell you that I will go for a walk in my neighborhood. They'll tell you I'll get on an airplane and go on a staycation somewhere. So I won't think twice about it. I'll tell my husband I'll be back this day or that day. They'll tell you those kind of things about me. But it took me, like I said, until my oldest was a senior in high school to figure out that if I don't stop wearing all the titles, I'm not doing what makes me happy. I'm not figuring out who Pearl is. I'm not figuring out who Dr. Ellen is. We're not figuring out who we are. And that's what we're meant to do in this life. Because again, the other thing I always like to talk about too is that we come into this world, our path is already decided. That where we're going, our dash, or when our dash ends, it's already been decided. Only one person knows that. And for me, it's God, but only one person knows when the dash is going to be up. And so when we come in this world, we think, oh, I don't like the path that's going to go on. So I'm going to come and go left because I think I could do it better this way. But what happens is you end up back on the path because you didn't follow the path that's already there for you. If you just listen and hear what's on that, I'm very empathetic with that way, but if you just listen to your inner, and women, we have it. We have the inner gut. It's a true thing. I watched it happen when my son passed. It's a true thing. If we don't listen to our gut, and do what's on our gut and we listen to everybody else, you're not going to be on that path that you want to be on. And so that's what I tell her. I'm like, if tomorrow Dr. Ellen is not here and people can only say what they saw you do for yourself and that they can't come up with that, that's when you need somebody like Dr. Ellen or somebody like me to help you.
That's
Nope.
beautiful. And
Thank
that's
you.
actually the one of the steps of my light formula is to find 5 minutes of joy a day. And that's one of the journaling prompts is what can I do to like what can I look forward to tomorrow that will bring me joy? And that's the journey I've really been on for the last 7 months is now that I'm out on my own, trying to figure out what brings me joy and how can I do more of it.
And that's, I love, I mean, like you went on this like 155-day journey of like doing all these changes, but the point behind all of that is Dr. Ellen did it. Like she didn't just sit back and say, well, I should stay in this relationship because that's what I should do, or she listened to her gut, she made a change in her life, and she's making positive changes. And the book, we'll make sure we put the link and everything to the book on here too, but it's really really important. It's also the other reason why I do my retreats, Dr. Ellen. I went to an event. It's going to be 10 years next year. I went to an event with Linda McMahon, Debbie Saviano, and Stacy Shefflin. They put on this, it was an amazing event for women in leadership. And I sat in that big, huge conference room and I said to Stacy, I go, this is great. This is awesome for the CEO high levels because that's what was in the room. I said, but I'm thinking about that woman that's sitting at home. Right now, she's a CEO of her house because I don't believe in stay at home mom titles. She's running the household at home. And I'm thinking about her that says, I just want a Calgon take me away moment. I just want some time to myself. And Stacy looked at me, she goes, you should do a retreat. You should do a pajama retreat. I'm like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. So literally we did our first pajama retreat. It was a come and go 2-day event. And then the next year, ever since then, since year 2, it's been a stay for the weekend in your PJs and no makeup. You are not allowed to wear makeup at all at the retreat. And the reason why is when for women, some of us put makeup on for that mask to make it through the
Yeah.
day. And so I want you to take that off. I want us to get deep down fast into what's happening. And so here we are 9 years later, it's going to be the September 17th. We're having our ninth retreat. We're coming back to Tampa. Normally go to the Gulf Shores of Alabama because I get a house right in the beach, but I wanted my Tampa home to know I'm still doing this and we still want them to be part of this amazing event. But I saw that need sitting in that big room with all these women going, if these CEOs can take time off and come here and get poured into, why isn't the everyday woman at home? That's not the CEO of a corporation, but the CEO of her house doing the same
Right.
thing. And so that's why I'm doing what I do today. That's why I love coaching and everything that I do today is because I want to make that change. You know, people have told me they've come to my retreat. They're like, you should charge more for your retreat. And I'm like, yeah, I should. And if I do, I may take a demographic out that I want to hit, and I don't want to do that because I want to make this for every woman. And you know, there's so much happening in our world today, which we won't even get down that path, but that women are forgetting about, you know, why we should be doing this for ourselves and why we need to speak up for ourselves and why we need to put ourselves first. Because, like you said, your to-do list can be really, really big, but if you're at the bottom and tomorrow doesn't come, like somebody's going to
Yeah.
slide into your seat at work. If you're a solopreneur like me, nobody's going to run my business. And my husband
Yeah.
and my kids are going to figure out how to do laundry and cook. So they already do it now. So
They
why not
will.
put yourself to the top of the to-do list, you know? So elaborate on
Exactly.
that for us.
And I just think if we're thriving, if our cup is full and we're giving from the overflow, we're giving from that abundant place, then we're giving with joy versus resentment. And that's actually what I posted out on social media yesterday. Before I put anything else on my calendar, I'm pausing first off, putting my hand on my heart and my belly, taking a breath and saying, can I do this? Can I add this to my calendar without overwhelm or resentment? And two, do I even really want to do it? And there are a takeoff of questions that Terry Cole had on a podcast that I listened to this week. And I just added my own flavor to it. Because how many times does someone ask us to do something, or we get an email, or we get a text inviting us to yet another program, another retreat, um, another training program, or just dinner on Friday night? And if you have a really busy week and Friday night was going to be your decompress in front of the TV night, and someone invites you to go do something and you say yes out of that obligation, out of that should, versus a true checking in with yourself and saying, will this really nourish me? Or was my original plan of just staying home and being quiet more supportive for me? And oftentimes we don't even pause and ask that question. And so we just I know, at least for myself, I spent decades of the automatic yes, just say yes to everything. And because I didn't want to disappoint people, I didn't want to say no, and a little bit of FOMO. Like, I know that like going out would be fun. So do I want to miss that opportunity? And, you know, it's just that pausing and really tuning in with yourself and seeing what your body says. Does the body say, yes, I'd love to go do that? That's a great opportunity. Or no, I really just need to rest. And I know years ago I had nothing going on a particular weekend. And I just got this intuitive hit to just lay low that weekend. And my ego brain said, no, we want to just go be busy. And then I was sick for 2 weeks. So, the body wins eventually. It's going to win with disease, illness, accidents. So we can either tune in and listen to that whisper, or, you know, something more catastrophic. I've heard it being said, like, it comes as a feather or a whisper, it comes as a brick, or it comes as a Mack truck. So it's like, when do you want to listen? Do you want to listen when like you actually physically get stopped with an illness or disease or an accident? Or do you want to listen when that little whisper that says, like you said, you can go left, you can try to do life your way, and I did for decades, or you can listen to that intuition and stay on your path and have it go maybe a little smoother or a little faster.
And that's so true, like you said, because like we don't listen, and we like you said, the FOMO and everything, and it's so important to listen. Like I remember, like this month is July that you and I are recording this, and in the month of July, I have these amazing French program. Right, this month we have 14 kids from France that are staying with families here in Tampa Bay, and I knew my month was going to be busy, so I knew last month in June, I there was things I wanted to include to make sure I got done, so I can be proactive. Like when you and I get done with doing this, the chaperone stays with me. So her and I are going to go and do some stuff this afternoon. So that way I've taken care of what I want to do for my business. And now I'm going to show up for and I love when they're here because I have fun when they're here too. So it's my fun time too. But in fast forward, like next month in August, Chuck and I are doing the first time we've ever taken a vacation since we had kids by ourselves. We took vacation with the kids and here or there weekend things. But now that our kids are adult and an angel in heaven, it's like, we're going to go do a bucket list. Like I said, we've been together 40 years. So we're actually going on an 11-day cruise in Greece. I've
Oh,
never
wow.
been like away from work. We both own businesses, so we have to do a little check-in every day in our business, but we've committed to no more than 2 hours in the day of business time. And especially with the retreat coming up, I have to stay connected. So we've made that commitment. So fast forward, there's different events and things that I need to be part of that I am, I have two nonprofits I'm on and I have a network group. And I reached out to them all and I said, listen, just so you know, the month of July, you're not only going to see me at this one thing. The month of August, I will not be plugged in on anything before or after when I come home because we leave like the 7th, we come back like the 22nd. I'm like, so the before and after, I've got to do preparing and catch up. So, I set the stage to make sure that I was putting
Wow.
myself first. And let me tell you, the FOMO, like there's things that are happening when I'm here, but I'm like going, no, this is more important. I'm going to enjoy my time this way, and then I could be better prepared. So that's what you said too. That like you and I are talking this, and it's important that our clients and I see that with you too. That know that we live it too. We don't just coach it, and that for me, I've had clients come to me that have had other coaches, and I'll say, why me? Because like I said at the beginning of the show, I don't want to just take your money. I want to know why you want to work with me because I want you to invest in yourself to get something out of it. And they'll tell me, I've had a couple of people tell me, well, my coach, she tells me this, but I don't see her doing that. I'm like, okay, that's not who I am. Like if you follow me on Facebook, you see everything from my grief to everything, it's all there. And so I love that you brought that up. Like the FOMO is there, but if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. Because like you said, it can hit you from a feather to a Mack truck. And it you don't want that Mack truck because that
You
Mack
don't.
truck can mean that you're not here tomorrow. And so listen to your body. And you know what? If it doesn't feel right, just say no. Just be like, you know what? Because that's the other thing with me. No is a complete sentence. We feel like we have to give excuses, right? I mean, we feel like we have to
Justify it and
go,
justify it to
yeah,
ourselves and then to somebody else. Yeah.
right. And it's like if I tell my clients, I go, I want you to say no, like you just won $1 million. And that's it. And the really cool thing is like when I went on this journey to overcome people pleasing, that's where I came up with the Shiro method, is that I started becoming stronger and understanding that the word no was a complete sentence. And I would say it and I'd be like, nope, that's not something that fits for me right now, or nope, I can't do that for you right now. The cool thing that came out of that is as the people pleaser in me wanted to be like, how can I still help without being the yes? And so what it would do is like if you ask me, like I went to an event, somebody's like, hey, we're doing this fundraiser for these animals. I'm like, I love my dog and cat, but I don't want to fundraise. However, I know this person that would be great fit. So it became like I've sort of become this connector. People will say, go ask Pearl, she's a connector. So it's sort of like it sages my people pleasing in me, but I can still say no. And then as that was happening, like you were talking about, I no longer had the midnight worries. I'm happier. I'm not waking up going, oh, I didn't email that person. I didn't do that for that person. I wasn't having that anymore. And then the empowerment, like you writing books, I become empowered to like share my stories, speak on stages, write books, right? And then the funny thing was happening is like I would walk into rooms and people like, what's different about you, Pearl? Like if you lost weight, like you cut your hair, I'm like, nothing's changed. I call it the radiant glow up. I became more radiant in my life. And the really cool thing, going back to when we started the show, talking about what did we want to be when we grew up, I became my original self. I became more poured into coaching and helping and teaching. And that's what I want in the world today. So becoming that Shiro of your life is what I want to leave people with. And like with you, like the lightness, like we said at the beginning with you, it's like shining and shining your light and doing that. So what do you want, like, share with us some of your thoughts on all that. We're having such fun. This is so funny. Our
Oh,
conversations.
you're right. There's no coincidences. It's just divine timing and destiny for us to come together. And yes, I think a couple things. One, it is a journey. And I like to think of it as a spiral. So we start here and we're spiraling around quickly through whatever. It could, for me, I have a core wound of abandonment. And then I get to see as I spiral up and as my life journey continues, also got to see how I abandoned myself. And people pleasing is self-abandonment. And it's also, and this is going to come out harsh to some of you people pleasers out there, it truly is manipulation. And I had a coach tell me that 4 or 5 years ago, and I bristled because, we think we're doing it out of the goodness of our heart. But what we're really doing when we try to please other people without speaking up our own truth is we're trying to manipulate them so that we get what we want. So if I do this for you, and if I'm nice to you, then you're going to be nice to me, and you're going to do X, Y, Z for me. So it's not, and it's not a clean energy exchange. So it is learning that to speak our truth, to say, like you did with your parents, like, this doesn't work for me anymore, and this is what I need now. And then, like, giving it over to them. And that's another diagram in my book. So that comes in the free handout that you'll get, is the locus of control. So there's a circle, a red circle of what is in our control, and then everything else that's outside of our control. And I know for me, it's partly driven by fear, partly driven by societal norms, and just all the stuff I absorbed growing up, and my family. I mean, so much of our family dynamic was trying to control other people and how they behaved and what they said and what they did. And when we focus our energy on things that we truly cannot control or change, it depletes us. That's how we get overwhelmed and exhausted and drop into bed every night and not want to get out of bed in the morning. So it's focusing on what you can control, writing that book, being your best self, pouring into yourself, going on retreats, reading books, writing books, just unplugging, just saying, like you, and I'm a connector as well. Who can I connect this person with that might be able to help them do whatever it is, so that it doesn't always have to be like, I don't have to be the savior. I don't have to be the rescuer and the fixer, but I can maybe connect them to someone who can help them. Um, and in that, it frees me up to do what I came here to do, or what lights me up. And then when I'm lit up, then everybody else around me rises as well. And I'd like to think of, you know, there's different vibrations, just like different notes in a song. There's lower notes, there's higher notes. So again, no good or bad. It's just you've got to put the notes together to make a melody. And what song do you want to sing with your life? What notes do you want to play?
I love that. That's such a great analogy of that. And that's a great way to lead us into closing off. So what notes do
Yes.
you want to lead in your life? I love that. So share with everybody how they can reach you, Dr. Ellen. We'll put everything in the show notes as well.
Yes. So my website is www.lightnessoneall.com. So the name is right above my head. Um, and again, it will be in there. So my book is in there. You can get an autographed copy if you're in the US. If you're outside the US, please look for it on Amazon. And it is From Simply Surviving to Radically Thriving. We'll find it, or my name, Ellen Mosti. We'll find it as well. And I just, the only other thing I want to say is I do a bi-monthly self-love tune-up call. So if you are looking for a way to connect with other women, to support and get tips and tricks and supportive lessons and meditations and journaling prompts, you can join us. And that's on my website as well.
Thank you so much. We'll put all that in the show notes. So now Dr. Ellen knows that we have our cards. These are our Better Questions,
Yes.
Better Life cards. And so I don't get a kickback on them. So if you want to, you can go online at betterquestionsbetterlife.com and grab them. But we're going to shuffle them. You're going to tell me when to stop, and we're going to have you answer the question. So here we go. Tell me when to stop.
Stop.
All right. So yours says, what is holding me back? What's holding you back? These are good cards.
They are great cards. Well, a lot of what we talked about today, fears, limiting decisions, limiting beliefs, and just all the programming, all the patterns that have formed in my life over decades, and just learning to unravel them has gotten me unstuck. And knowing that I'm worth it, that I am worthy and to be here. I know a lot of women out there don't feel like they're enough and have to prove their worth. That's another pattern that emerged out of all of this. And just knowing that in my heart, that I was created, that each and every one of us is a genius and a miracle. And because we're here, we deserve to be here and to have the best life that we can have.
That's amazing. You all are geniuses and we all are miracles. I love that. And with that said, I want to thank you, Dr. Ellen, for coming on the show. And I want to remind everybody that we come into this world, we are a tough oyster on the outside. We have a lot of work to do to open up our own shell. And inside, you will find your inner pearl of greatness. And I hope today you got some inspiration from Dr. Ellen and I to go out and find your inner pearl of greatness so that you become the Shiro that you are. Have a great day. Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. I know this is probably one of our longer episodes, but we could talk about shining our light and everything forever with Dr. Ellen. It was so much fun. But I just want you to take one thing out from this conversation, and that is really about your pause. Are you doing a pause every day in your life to start overflowing your cup, as we were talking about? Don't put yourself at the bottom of the to-do list, because you need to be at the top. You need to be the overflow of your to-do list. And if you're not, I want to encourage you that we need to help you pause and make sure that it's serving you. So if you're struggling there, you want more help on that, please reach out to me at reach out to me at wsliving.com, or you can email me at coachpearl@wsliving.com. But I just want you to know you are an amazing person, and I look forward to having you back and listening to us again. Have a great day.
Why'd it take so long to